What if the thing holding you back right now isn't discipline but clarity? This week, we're answering 5 brilliant questions for women navigating sugar cravings, fueling confusion, menopause, performance shifts, marathon fears, and that very stubborn hamstring. Welcome to the She Runs Strong podcast with me, Nikki Friedman, and Shona Hendricks. This is a pod for female runners who are keen to improve their running and well-being. We are powered by Coach Parry, an online running community and training platform. Brilliant. Shona, hey, how are you and how are you doing? And we've got to get into you running a marathon recently. So how are you first? And let's hear about your marathon.
Yeah, good, Nikki. Thank you. Yeah, hope you are well as well. Yeah, we didn't even really get a chance to chat about that. It's been
No,
it's
I
been
know it's been a while.
a while. But yeah, it was one of those marathons where things just don't really go to plan. But yeah, so sort of. I mean, I
Well,
was
just for
aiming.
the viewer, for the
Mm,
listeners, which it was a nighttime marathon, wasn't it?
yeah,
And it's an
yeah.
important one because you had to qualify for two oceans, so it was important. And then it started what time at night?
So yeah, it's an Uttersdale night marathon, which is really cool. I think they lie about that though, because it started at 5 p.m. So it wasn't night. I mean, yeah, so 5 p.m. So it really only started getting dark at about 7. But I mean, the rest of it was amazing in the dark, and they light up the route with lanterns. It's gorgeous. It's great.
It's
It was
amazing.
so beautiful. Got to see the sunset. There was a lightning storm happening far in the distance over
Really?
there. So it was amazing. Yeah, it's an awesome race. But yes, it was my two oceans qualifier, which means I had to run a sub 5. And we've been speaking on the pod around, I know my training didn't go exactly to plan, so I was going in a little bit undercooked or more so than I would have liked. And so I aimed for what should have been a um, very feasible 4 hours 50, which I should have been able to do quite comfortably. But
Yeah.
yeah, things don't always go to plan. And I guess this is how, why we talk about these things. And
Yeah.
so around the 30th or 31, 32 kilometer mark, I landed up getting quite nauseous and ended up vomiting quite a bit from there all the way towards the end, actually. And of course, we're really on track from time, and actually felt like I was doing this really easy. And then it just, obviously spending time on the side of the road, vomiting up the nutrition you've just had, and then your time just gets less and less and less. And eventually, my boyfriend was just like, okay, we now need to really push hard here. And so, I mean, for the listeners, for the most part, we were averaging around 640 per kilometer, 645, somewhere around there. Then, we needed to average around 7 minutes a K for the last 6Ks. And then we needed to really go, for the last few. And I ran the last 2Ks in like 5 minutes, 30Ks, really sprint in. Yeah, it wasn't a great feeling. It wasn't fun having to be sick. Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of factors came into that. It was hot, still at
Right.
5 p.m. It's warm.
How hot was it at the start?
Oh, must have been 28
Right.
degrees,
It's hot, isn't
minimum.
it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's yeah, it was really warm. And it cooled down. It was so nice to actually do a race where it cooled down as you continued, as opposed to
Yes.
warming up like we're so used to. Which is really, really cool. Yeah, so no, the race itself, and we did it. We managed our nutrition well. I mean, like, we, because it was a night race, we actually ate dinner in the morning. We had some
Oh,
spaghetti
that's a
bolognese
good
in the
idea.
morning. And then, ate a little bit like through the day, and then had what we would normally have for breakfast when we got to the race, or just an hour and a half before the race. But I did make one change, which, is normally I ran with a soft flask with my carb drink on like my running vest.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to run with it because it was warm, and we put our bottles along the route. And I didn't put my soft flask bottles. I put plastic bottles, and so I think
Okay.
I drank those too quickly because I was irritated with running with them,
Yes.
and so I do think that affected the guts. And so hence the vomiting, and that combined with the heat, I think, were the two aspects. But yeah, got in, so finished 4 hours 59 and 40 seconds.
Whoa, 20 seconds.
I know, if you see my Strava, it looks very dramatic because I sort of fell over the line, almost vomited again, and then I was like, "Oh, my watch stopped it," and I ended up stopping it at 4:59:59. I was like, "No, that was not. It was 4:59:40. I'm claiming those extra couple of seconds." Yeah, so no, it was, it's always a good lesson. There's always lessons, right? So the nutrition lesson, Lessons learning how to dig deep. I mean, I you know, I've
Yes,
done
you
that
dug
before.
really
You know, you
deep
know how to
there.
dig, so those are good lessons. But yeah, you take those forward, and then yeah, I spent at least a week not running because my legs were sore. And then only in the second week after the race that I, start. I did do a bike in that first week out of the
Right.
race, then started only running the second week after the race, and even then my legs are still feeling just not completely there. So I haven't started any other intervals, in the because now build up 8 weeks. Well, it's
Well,
probably
yeah,
after
well, I mean, super well done for
the
getting
race
your
was 9 weeks, yeah, to two oceans. So yeah, so I haven't done any intervals. I'll probably start those this week. Yeah, we'll see how the legs recover. But yeah, so those are important lessons.
oh,
But
well, super well done. That was amazing. I mean, to get
thank
that
you.
qualifying
Yeah.
and then, but yeah, Two Oceans is coming up thick and fast though. I mean, that's
Yeah. Yeah, right back in it. So that's, but again, that's just a lesson, and that's why I wanted to just mention that, is that it is coming thick and fast, but then it doesn't help to train on tired legs. So
yeah,
that's just an important thing, to rather than take an extra few days. Really, when I started running, my legs weren't feeling great, so I was running, but then I was like, well, it doesn't help if I go and run into hill intervals now. So yeah, so just to take that time to really make sure that your legs are feeling good before
yeah.
you jump back in. Yeah.
No,
But
I would definitely recommend everything easy for a little bit and just let your body, because that must have been quite traumatic being sick all.
yeah.
I mean, for me, I think the race would have been over. I don't know if I could have carried on. So, I mean, well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Traumatic's the right word. Thanks, Nikki. I like that. It definitely was. And mentally exhausting. So yeah, to have dug deep and yeah, be tugged along is yeah. So it was tiring. But so that's why I think a little bit of time off is good. And then we get cracking back into a training plan for Two
Yeah.
Oceans,
How
which
how did the
I'm
boyfriend
excited
cope
about.
with it? Was he quite motivating or was he a bit
Yeah, 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 yeah. Very, very motivating. I mean, he's a little bit fitter than me, so I told him to go at one point, and
right?
he didn't. And then actually said to me, he was like, he did have a cutoff in his head about when he was like, okay, I'm gonna have to leave her or not, which I'm very okay with. But yeah, I mean, he's a little bit fitter than me, but he would have been, yeah, his legs were fine afterwards. But yes, he was very motivating, shouting and screaming my name while he was about 10 meters ahead of me, which is fine. So that's good, just to keep that motivation going. Um, yeah, so yeah, I guess some couples you might fight in that situation, like I am
Yes.
trying, don't shout at me. But I respond quite well to that, and we're both so competitive. So I think that's, if I had legs, I would have tried to outrun him in the last 100
Oh,
meters or so, but that would not have gone down well, I'm sure. So yeah, just because we're competitive. But yes, yeah. So that's the marathon story. So let me not carry on about that. It's
excellent.
traumatic, like you mentioned. So let's maybe jump into
Well
to
done.
these questions today. You do,
Okay,
as you said, some really really cool questions today. So let's get cracking on those. So first up is from Bristol in the UK. It's Claire M. She says, I am trying to kick my sugar habit. The holidays didn't help at all, and I feel like I need to stop all the treats. Any advice on the best way to do this? I mean, we're not necessarily dietitians or nutritionists, Nikki, but yeah,
no.
I know we've all sort of struggled with this as well. Yeah, any
Oh,
advice, Claire?
this could be me. I mean, honestly, I hear you, Claire. Totally hear you on this. This could be me. I'm exactly the same. I find it really, really difficult, especially when I'm on holiday because, and in fact, I've just been in Dubai just a wee while back in January, but there was puddings galore, and then once you start, you just can't, they're just so yummy, or chocolate fountains, or, you know, so yeah, there's many ways to kick this, I suppose, and it has to be a fairly measured approach. It has to be quite disciplined as well. And very often it can come from two things. So if it's down to your training, so I was on holiday and I was just tempted by good foods being around me. But let's talk about it in terms of training, and maybe you're training and then you're getting sugar cravings later in the evenings. And that's probably down to your fueling, and you're just not fueling well. And this was something I suffered from very early back in my early days of running, in that quite often I wouldn't really eat enough for breakfast or enough after my runs. And then later on in the evenings, I would get these unbelievable sugar cravings that I just needed. And that was really what I learned, and what is really important here is that it's about fueling your runs, having breakfast in the mornings, and having a good sort of macronutrient covered breakfast. So that, what I mean by that is some carbs and proteins as well, and covering all your bases. So quite often, sometimes we just have people have a sugary cereal or maybe a couple of slices of toast, which is fine before a run, but also you're looking to have and throw in the protein after the run to keep you a little bit fuller. And really, you want to be eating a bit, as they often say, like a king in the morning. You really want to be loading up quite a lot of calories, because as females, we're always trying to be a little bit lighter, and watch our weight and be a bit skinnier and lighter for running and life and our jeans and our dresses and stuff. And so quite often it's quite easy in the morning to not forget to eat, but just to eat a bit lighter. But then it comes back to bite you
Yeah.
later on in the evening, and you get these massive sugar cravings. And that's because your blood sugars have just kind of gone a bit awry during the day, and they're just not stabilized enough in the evenings. And so if you can eat more of a balanced breakfast, balanced meals in the morning, then naturally through the day you'll have less cravings. And it doesn't necessarily need to be sugar, because I know plenty of people have crisp cravings, and however you sort of crave. But often in the evenings, that's when the damage is done for most people, is they kind of have their dinner, they're all fine, and then they have these sort of crisp craving, sugar craving,
Mm.
or wine craving, or whatever. And that's often your body saying, I'm just not
Not getting enough.
fueled enough,
Mm.
you know. And so for me, it's, you know, so some people sort of say that you need to reduce your sugar intake. That often doesn't work for me a lot. If I'm a bit of a chocoholic, I need to do a bit of all or nothing. I actually need to kind of, for a wee while, say, I'm just not having it. I need to go a little bit cold turkey with it.
Huh.
And
I'm the opposite there. Sorry, Nikki. I'm actually the opposite of that. So I'm if you tell me that I can't have something, then I'm like I guess it's a
you
bit
want
like the
it.
red pill in me. Then I'm like, nah, I want it more. So
Yeah.
that's just, yeah. I think there's two sides there. So because yeah, for my training partner as well, she's the same. So she's like all or none. So if she says no, she's not having it, she's not having it. Whereas yeah, so for me, my suggestion would have been so reduce that sugar intake, don't eliminate it completely. Whereas for you, that's different. So yeah, I just like
I
the
can't do
two
that. It's a bit
aspects.
like telling an alcoholic just to have 1 or 2 drinks a day. It's not something you would ever advise them to do. And for
Yes,
me,
yes.
I'm like that with chocolate. So
Okay.
as
Okay,
soon
that's
as I have 1 chocolate bar, I just, like, fall off the cliff and end up eating
yeah,
no, and it's just almost like a binge eater. So I
yeah.
think you have to maybe identify your type of
Your type,
personality
yeah.
then.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah. Mm.
Uh-huh, and then and see whether you can reduce it and just say, "Right, I'm gonna have 2 bits of chocolate after my dinner in the
Yes.
evening, and that's fine." Or whether actually you're like me and have to say, "Okay, I can't do that, so I'm gonna always make sure I have a bunch of grapes or something more
Yeah.
natural sugars after." Um, yeah, it's a really interesting. I think a lot of women suffer with this. I don't think you're on your own there, Claire, at all.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
planning for some sweet treats
Mm.
that aren't that maybe are better, like fruit, pears,
Mm.
grapes,
Mm.
raisins. Raisins can be little sugar bombs actually, but, um, what else? What do you do in the evenings? Do you get this, Shona, at all? Do you suffer?
Yeah, I do get cravings, and then that is absolutely linked to what you were saying around low energy availability. I
Yeah,
know in the evenings when I'm craving something, to be honest, then I try and have like a warm milk or hot chocolate or something like that in the evening. So like as a drink rather than as I'm not a massive chocolate or sweets fan. So yeah, so then that yeah the little elements of protein getting in there as well. So I think a lot of that is yeah to try and then change that snack to something. So then I would have perhaps a yogurt in the evening or yeah hot chocolates or something like
yeah,
that as opposed to sweets. But I'm also not generally a sweet person. And then
uh,
for me, I like the idea of a planned treat. So yeah, you mentioned wine. I mean, so for me, wine is my little treat. And so when I'm training hard, then I will say, okay, cool. On Thursday nights is wine club. So then we make sure that we don't then have a glass of wine with dinner every night. Then Thursday night's my treat night. So I think so again, I think the personality is important there, but also just changing the habits, when that's happening. So if you do get a craving in the afternoon, as an example, like you say, maybe change that to a fruit and then go for a walk with that. Obviously
Yes,
that's more
get
difficult to do
outside,
with
leave
your
the
craving
house.
in the evening, but yeah, I think changing the habit in and around that whole habit is also
Yeah,
contextual. So I think that helps as well. But yeah,
yeah.
it's
And like we've said before, often is adding in protein will help
yes,
as well. So adding, maybe not focusing on cutting something out, but adding something else in might do
yes.
it as well. I guess it's what kind of works for you.
Yep.
Cool.
But yeah, it's a very loaded question because there's so many answers there.
Oh, I
So
know, isn't there?
yeah.
Okay, well, the next one's about fueling as well. So let's have a look at that one. This is Emma from Toronto, Canada. How much fuel do I actually need during a run? I read some elites are taking up to 100 grams carbs per hour. Whoosh. I can't imagine taking that much, but I'm nervous about underfueling too.
If you want to recover from sessions faster, not feel tired all the time, run pain and injury free, and improve your endurance, then be sure to join me in my upcoming training specifically for female runners over the age of 45. In it, I'll share with you my simple 5-step framework that will transform your running. Simply scan the QR code on screen now or click on the link in the description to save your seats in the training now. We look forward to seeing you there. Awesome. So Emma, I think the key thing here is firstly, obviously we get these questions in from you guys as they're coming in, but we did answer this question in depth last week with our guest Rebecca Pulser. So go and have a look at that episode because we really dive into the ins and outs as to 100 grams, why 100 grams, how to get there, if that's really what we should be doing, and so yeah, so I think firstly, just go and listen to that. But just in terms of giving you a shorter answer here, I think the important thing is I love this, fueling for your physiology and not for what Instagram or for what Facebook or for whatever someone else says. Okay. The key point there in your question is also that some elites are taking up to 100 grams per hour. And so their nutritional calorie demand is much higher during a race than perhaps ours is. Okay. So
Yeah.
that's also important, is that we need to fuel for you specifically, not you versus your training partner, and definitely not you versus any elite runner either. So I think that's important to make sure that you're fueling specifically for you, and understanding what that amount is. Okay. The second thing I'd like to say then is that this it's about how much you can tolerate. So if the theory is saying 100 grams, that doesn't mean that we must all go out and have 100 grams of carbs per hour. As I mentioned about my marathon, I think I
Yes.
took in my carb drink too quickly, which affected my gut, which is why I got nauseous and landed up vomiting. And so we have to build that tolerance. I'd had that drink before, definitely. I just would sip it slower. And so if you go from taking in no carbs, which a lot of people do, to suddenly taking in 60 grams or 100 grams of carbs, your gut is going to have an issue. So so I think just find out what is the right amount for you and then build up towards that. And I don't always think that 100 grams is the absolute. And you'll hear Rebecca say in there that they've almost gotten to a point where there's diminishing returns if you're taking more. So I'm a big believer in almost doing like the minimal dose. Not minimal when it comes
Yes.
to nutrition
Yeah.
specific, but in strength training and running. And so we need to do enough, but not necessarily always hitting up to the absolute top. So so I know there's a lot about that out there, but I mean, if you think, the people who are doing this, now his name has just left me, Nicky, the trail runner
Oh,
gentleman
David
guy.
Roach.
Yeah, David Roach. He speaks about how he's trained his guts to do this, and actually how he purposefully vomits to be able to take in more. So again, we need to understand why we are doing something. We need some fuel, because I like what you say there. You're nervous about underfueling, but if you're having a little bit before, you're having enough carbs every hour, and you're recovering with some fueling, I think you've got the right mindset. So we don't want to get to the point of diminishing returns either. Nikki,
Yeah.
yeah, your thoughts on that, or yeah, are you?
I mean, yeah, David Roach is an interesting character. He has really trained himself and he runs at, high threshold all the time, and he just needs that. He's burning it off all the time. And most of us aren't doing that. So I
Exactly.
think, you know, it's you just track it week on week and see what works and see how you feel afterwards. Because I think often it's the day after how you feel is a good sign of if you fueled it correctly or not.
100%. I like that as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
excellent.
yeah. So
All right. Well, yeah, Emma, I hope that does help. But go and check out that episode that we did with Rebecca Pulser because, yeah,
yeah.
some real gems in there. Okay. Next question is from Janine in Perth, Australia. Perth's like our mini South Africa, right? So welcome, Janine. Janine says, I've been running for 30 years, but since menopause, I feel like a beginner. Everything feels harder. Is this normal? And will it get better? Just for some reference, Janine also just gave us some extra info. She does do strength probably consistently once a week. She said she can probably do more, but she just feels like since menopause has hit that things are harder. So she really just wants to know if things will get better. Nikki, do you have an answer for Janine? So hopefully some glimmer of hope.
Yeah, well, yes, of course things are going to get better. They are going to get better. But I think while you go through that wobbly phase, Wendy, she's past it a little bit, but um, do you know, I think it's a really hard phase for women when you're 45s, 50s, everything gets you think it's going to be a little bit quieter in life, and it's not. You have a lot of pulls in life, as well as this funny sort of hormone thing going on, which is perfectly normal. Plus, the things that you could maybe do quite easily are becoming that little bit harder to do while you're trying to find your balance of things. Um, Everything is changing, it's shifting around a little bit. You're maybe you're not quite as disciplined as well with maybe your foods and your eating and your habits as well. Um, she is strength training. Do you know, I would, if I were you, Janine, I would probably look to really prioritize that a little bit and maybe get a second session in, even a third session in, and just hone in on that a little bit because it does really, really help when you're going through those phases of life. Can't tell you, it just makes such a difference.
Mm.
And then your recovery as well, your eating habits, as I've sort of said, and we don't really know. I mean, you haven't given us that much detail apart from that you do strength train once a week, but try maybe going for 4
No,
real
sorry. She did say she runs 5 times a week as well.
she runs
So sorry, I think
so
that's where
maybe
you
take it back
getting
to
to.
4
Mhm.
quality runs a week and just see, and add the extra strength training in instead. But make it those training runs really count. Have a reason why you're doing them each time. I know sometimes people talk about junk miles. There used to be a lot about that, but just look at those real quality runs and just really sort of structure them nicely across the week with your strength training as well. And if you can add in another strength train and a full recovery day, and then I guess you need to look at your sleep as well,
Yeah.
because quite often I think women, and I mean guys do as well, but women really struggle with their sleep. And if you're not sleeping well, you need to find out and try and address that because you just won't be recovering. And that is really vital. Actually, I can't say that too much. It's just really vital. So if you're not sleeping well and you can put in some good sleep habits and that's still not working, then I don't know if you've got some hormone replacement therapy. You might need to consider doing something like that, going to the GP, just working on that a little bit and finding a balance. I have a number of friends who are through, they're more into their just about 60s and stuff, and they are running pretty much as fast as they ever did. Um, so
Awesome.
there's no reason for you not.
Mm.
I don't believe that you have to get that much slower. I mean, you're never going to be hitting
Mm.
the PBs, but if you're like 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds within those lifetime PBs, that's pretty awesome going. So I think there's always hope. There's always you can get there, but it's about looking at these different pillars of health
Mm.
and your training load and prioritizing strength. There's quite a lot there, I feel like. But if she's anything like my 50s have been, I've had to balance my children. I've had
Mm,
my parents being unwell, um,
mm.
and just all these different things. My husband traveling with work. It's just there's a lot. I had thought that I would have much more time to just focus in on myself and do some stuff. But the reality is you're dragged in all different directions by different people. So sometimes you have to take, what was that? I was listening to this thing the other day. You have to take vitamin N. Have you heard of that?
Was that vitamin? No. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So vitamin no. And you have to say no to things and prioritize yourself. So I quite like that, vitamin N.
Oh, do
Um,
you? That's good. Yeah, I think Nikki, you've hit the nail on the head with those. For me, the biggest thing I see working with females who are struggling through this phase is recovery. I mean, you mentioned strength. I mean, strength just, of course, that's the
yeah,
non-negotiable, but is recovery, because you almost feel like you should be able to do things the way you did, when you weren't necessarily in this phase, or when you're in your 30s or 20s, and then you don't recover, you don't make recovery as much of a priority, and then so you get slightly worse, so you train harder, and so you don't recover, and so it's this long cycle.
yep, yep,
So I
yep.
love to say about, just taking away one of those run days, which sounds so counterintuitive, but to give yourself that extra day of recovery. Because again, just a reminder, you only get that benefit of the training that you're doing when we are recovering. And the other aspect that I've seen just work so well for our female runners on the Coach Perry platform is just flexibility with your training. So if Tuesday is a interval session and you are feeling tired, don't just do it for the sake of doing it. Shift that around. If you're feeling shattered and you didn't sleep the night before, do an easy run and then move that hill session, later in the week. Yeah, so we've got a couple of females who've done that quite successfully and really smashed some of their runs. I think just being flexible with that training plan a little bit more in this phase is quite key as well.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. But you'll get there, Janine. It is a hard time. There's no question. There's a lot going on. And
Mm.
if it is feeling harder, then yeah, a couple of rest days, a little bit less is more. Maybe soften your goals as well. If you're aiming for marathons and ultras, maybe take it back to 5 and 10Ks and give yourself a bit of a fighting chance. And then take it up when you're ready to.
Good.
Be good. Right. Okay. Next question. Maria from Austin, USA. I'm 59 and considering a marathon, but my friends say it's too hard on my body at my age. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Is it too late? 59.
I mean,
Shona.
first up, we have. I mean, I can mention one case study of someone who's been on this podcast. Is Jackie Millett. I mean, Jackie
Yes.
started her marathon running around 59. That's just one case study of so many runners I know who run their first marathon much later in life. And so absolutely, if I have to answer this as a one word answer, I would say no, Maria. It's definitely not too late. How you go about doing that is obviously quite key. For me, strength training is an absolute non-negotiable for you, right? So because we're increasing the load and the mileage, we want to make sure that your body can handle that, and especially if you haven't done strength training before, just becomes that much more important. But yeah, we really want to focus on really progressing you well in this time. If you have, I'm assuming you have done some running, and so just to make sure that we build you up slowly. And that it's not too much of a shock on the system, essentially. And then really just, again, much like with the previous question, which was Janine, is to focus on recovery as well, because recovery just is that much more important at this age. So yeah, long answer short, no, it is definitely not too late. I definitely think it is feasible. Go and listen to that episode with Jackie Millett. I mean, I think,
Yeah.
well, sure, we did that over a year ago. But I mean, if you want to, I mean, Jackie's run more than 200 marathons now, right? I mean,
She's
it's
phenomenal.
absolutely
She just
insane. And
keeps knocking them out. I know.
yeah, she's in her early 70s now. Like,
I
yeah,
think she's like 72 or 73, isn't
72.
she? And she
So
just keeps,
she just keeps
yeah.
going. So yeah, and you just need to train smart. So don't find a program that is aimed at a 20-year-old or an app that suddenly says, oh, come and do this. It's about training smart, and it's about training specifically for your age and where you are at. Okay, so I do think this is also where a coach is very
Yes.
valuable.
I was going to say that. I think using
To
an
add
app
that in.
isn't the
Yeah.
best idea.
if using an app or Google download or ChatGPT program really isn't the way
Oh,
forward. I think finding something that's specific for where you are at and your age and what your history is, I think is important
yeah.
as well. But yeah, Nikki, I know you've also worked with a couple of people who have run marathons later in life. Yeah, do you have anything else you want to add there?
Do you know, I mean, there's no question marathon training is hard
Mm,
for anybody at any age, and you will be really tired. You will find that every weekend is set aside or whatever day, for running, and it does take over your life when you do a marathon, and it's an awesome process. I absolutely love the process of getting to a marathon, and you have to love that process, but you will be tired. It will take it out of you. You will be shattered, and whether you're young or old, it's hard graft, and recovery is important. Um, and I would say, doing a marathon is awesome. It will change your life. It is brilliant. I mean, I'm a big fan, but you've just got to be committed, I suppose, and to want to do it and get the right help, as
help.
Shona has said. Just get someone to help you. There's a lot of would-be run coaches out there
Yeah,
who will
exactly.
give
More and
you
more. Yes.
I
Yeah.
know, who are like, "Oh, you've got to do 3 by 10K at marathon pace," or something like that, and don't.
No, don't. Exactly. Good answer, Nikki. Yeah, I love that. Just don't do that. Brilliant. Yeah. Well, let us know. Yeah, please, Maria, if you do land up tackling this, would love to hear how that goes.
Yes,
Right. And then this question, this is so common, Nikki. I mean, if
very much.
ever if I always had a penny or a pound for every time I hear about a runner who has a hamstring concern. Yeah, so Sophie in Edinburgh, you're not alone. Let me just say that. Sophie is saying, I've had a recurring high hamstring injury. My physio says it's common in menopause. I'm cleared to run again, but how do I stop this from happening again? Um, I mean, yeah, it's very common hamstring, and in particular the high hamstring injuries, Nikki.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I think it's common in menopause, but it's common just in runners.
in
Um,
runners. Yeah,
yep.
exactly.
I mean, hopefully your physio has guided you a little bit on how much you can do at the moment and what's good for you. And it is all about load management. So please don't go back to running many times a day. As we've sort of said, 4 times a day. And actually, with something like this, I would probably go to three
4 times
times.
a week, not 4 times a day. Yeah.
Sorry, 4 times. Oh gosh. But I would bring in cross training for you as well. I think if you're really keen to make sure this doesn't happen, then you need to be quite patient. You need to watch the amount of running you're doing per week, so your load
Mm,
management. And then I would also bring in probably the indoor bike and do some indoor cycling as well. Or outdoor, if you live, oh no, you don't live somewhere sunny, Scotland. Okay, indoor bike and then strength as well. These injuries often come from places of
yeah,
weakness. So you need to strengthen those weaknesses. You're only as good a runner as your weakest muscle. So you need to always be strong throughout the body. And that's obviously your weakness. The physio will have given you rehab.
mm,
Do it. Do the rehab as much as you can, as much as she's advised, and manage your load. And then I would probably do everything easy. I probably wouldn't bring in any intensity for a wee while until I felt really confident, and then I would be really careful with the intensity that I do bring in. So don't go back to your group track sessions, but just wait until everything easy is feeling fine, and then perhaps start with some strides, some gentle intervals, and that, but only do it when you're ready to do it. Yeah.
absolutely. I think just on those intervals, one of the things that I've noticed with some of the athletes that I've worked with is that they warm up before those intervals, but they
Yes.
just really do that warm up with intent. And so if you are, and especially if you're coming back from an injury, please, please, please make sure that warm up is really full of intent, not just like an easy jog and then starts doing your
Yeah.
interval. So like nice easy jog, couple of strides, couple of coordination drills, and then yeah,
Yeah.
and then go back into that again and build into that session slowly, because I've seen so many recurring hamstring injuries with that. Yeah, which is really
Especially if you live in somewhere like Edinburgh, it's
yes.
cold. You go along and your muscles, everything's cold and you stay cold, even if you've warmed up quite nicely. So I think it's just I think people get more niggles in the winter because it is so cold.
Yeah, and I just think as we get older, we have to just spend a little bit more time on those warm-ups, add in a little bit of mobility perhaps as well, for those warm-ups.
But
Yeah, and then I was gonna
if you look at all these young athlete, elite runners, they will spend hours doing their activations and stuff, and they're young, and they're
yeah.
doing, I mean, when I coached the 15, 16-year-old girls on track, we spent a good half an hour warming them up with skills and drills and whatever before we ran anything fast. So yeah, whereas as adults, we just think we can 5 minutes, right? Good to
Yeah,
go. Good to go.
easy and that's at the door and out we go, So no. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention on the strength side of things, Nikki, which you did mention, which is really, really key. And your physio would have given you rehab exercises. So like Nikki says, do those. But the goal here, very often with a high hamstring injury, is where the weakness comes in is in the eccentric aspects of your contraction. So our muscles contract in two ways. They contract concentrically, which is when the fibers come together, the muscle shortens, and they contract eccentrically, which is where the muscle's contracting, but the muscle is lengthening. And that's very often where the hamstring is getting injured. And so adding in some hamstring strength work where you're working eccentrically. So one as an example, just imagine this, you're lying on your back, you have your feet on a exercise ball, a Swiss ball, a yoga ball. I don't know what they called in everyone's different countries. Feet on the ball, lift the hips, and you're extending your legs out and you're bringing your legs back. That's a great eccentric exercise. Again, only do this once you've been cleared with the physio to be able to do those sorts of exercises, but that is where the weakness is happening. And so, so maybe just if your physio hasn't given you these exercises, then find another physio perhaps, or find someone who's going to give you the rehab, like an exercise or rehab specialist as well, because that is, we were always taught at varsity, the number one predictor of a hamstring injury is a previous hamstring injury. So if you've had a hamstring injury, it's the number one thing that is going to cause you to have another hamstring injury. So you really have to focus on that rehab. It's vital. So yeah, but yes, it's not fun, Sophie, but put in the little bits of work with that rehab. I think we've seen athletes come right with it again. So yeah.
Cool. Oh, well, there we go. 5 questions, 5 answers. Excellent. That was a good episode today. So common theme is, what was it? Train smarter,
Yeah.
fuel smarter, recover more.
Recover more, not necessarily smarter, recover more. I love
Recover
that.
more and more. And that was good. Well, look, thank you for your time today, Shona, and we will see you all again next week. That's us for today. Goodbye.
Hi, everyone.
Cheers.